Hello, everyone, and welcome to our broadcast. I'm Rick Reese. I'm the Director of Behavioral Program Development at HMR Weight Management Services. And as a reminder, the information provided during this event is for educational purposes only. If you have any questions regarding medical conditions or treatment plans, please consult your physician. Thank you. Now, let's get started. Joining me today is my colleague, Nancy Adamczyk. She is a senior behavioral trainer and a program developer at HMR Weight Management Services. Hello, Nancy. How are you today?
I'm great, Rick. It's good to be here with you.
Excellent. Just a little bit of background for our audience. At HMR, we support people to make changes in their lifestyle health habits. And today, we're talking about the potential impact of positive lifestyle changes on health and quality of life. The fact is, there are many people who can better protect their health with just a few simple lifestyle changes. The average person really has so much potential in this area. So, Nancy, right up front, to set the stage, when you think of the average American lifestyle, what comes to mind first?
Well, first of all, food is available everywhere, 24/7, and it's in places where there's never been food before. People are snacking more than they ever have. And the most popular foods today are high fat and calorie dense, not to mention that portion sizes have increased pretty dramatically in the last few decades. And then with today's technology and our modern lifestyle, we're sitting more than ever before.
Yeah, so you hit on several different factors related to diet, and then obviously the sedentary lifestyles that are just so easy to fall into these days. There really is so little support for living a healthy lifestyle, for making healthy choices consistently. Our culture today, the environment, it just makes it so difficult. And if you're going to go about your life today without consciously making a point to make healthy choices, chances are you may not have a particularly healthy lifestyle. Nancy, we've talked a lot about research and surveys. I'd like to just share with our audience a major national survey that was published just a couple of years ago, which really says it all here. Let me just pull up my screen. And here we are. Yeah, so this was, again, over almost 5,000 people in this survey, and they looked at various factors that would determine whether someone's living a healthy lifestyle or not. And I mean, the headline says it all, doesn't it, Nance? Less than 3% of Americans live a healthy lifestyle.
It's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I love the Washington Post. Seriously, America? The study finds a mere 2.7% of U.S. adults meet the criteria for a healthy lifestyle. Ironically, just statistically, Nancy, it's a pretty good chance whoever wrote that title, it may not be, might be in the 97%, shall we say?
Probably, very likely.
Yeah. So anyway, that sort of sets the stage for the conversation that we're going to have. Again, the environment just doesn't support making healthy lifestyle changes. But a question we have to ask, as much as the environment sort of drives less healthy choices for so many people, is that the only problem in terms of people, with the intention of trying to, live a healthier life? What other factors, Nancy, have you seen that serve to discourage people from practicing healthier choices from your experience?
Well, it's easy to fall into this all or nothing thinking, right? That you have to completely change everything you're doing in order to improve your health. So, it's the thought of, well, if I'm not going to be perfect, what's the point? Why should I even bother? But the good news is you really don't have to be perfect to improve your health. And we see this in our program all the time, don't we, Rick? In fact, you're very familiar with the lifestyle research that supports the benefits of making any positive lifestyle changes. And, this is something that our program members really appreciate hearing about. They find it very reinforcing. And the fact is, and this is our whole point here, is that even small changes, if you make them consistently, can produce big results. So, Rick, why don't you take us through a few of the studies in this area, because they really are very positive and some of them are pretty dramatic.
Absolutely. So compelling and so positive. Let's talk about diet first. We've got a couple of different areas to cover there, and then we'll wrap it up with physical activity. So just speaking about diet, Nancy, the goal obviously is to eat a healthy diet, right? I mean, a lot of people have that as a goal. Well, what does that mean really? I mean, if you go to social media forums, you might get a lot of different answers about what constitutes a healthy diet. But when you look at healthy diets as they're defined by the published research, and I would also add, as they're laid out for all Americans in our national nutrition guidelines, there's a focus first on what to eat versus what not to eat. It's a real focus on go here first. These are the foods you want to eat more of. And then it's followed by the foods that you want to eat in smaller amounts. So I'm going to share my screen again here as we look at some of this research. It really is, again, just so interesting. Pulling this up. So a good example of this sort of to-do approach is presented by
We're not seeing it yet. We're not seeing it yet.
Oh, you're not seeing it? Thanks, Nancy. Let me just see here. Hitting share. There we go. Here it comes. Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome. Now we've got it.
Okay, great. So we're looking at the latest dietary guidelines for Americans, 2020 to 2025. I mean, these are fresh off the presses. So, and notice they start again with what to eat. Here are the foods to eat more of. And we see a lot of familiar players here, don't we, Nancy? Make half your plate fruits and vegetables, real focus on fruits and vegetables. Make half your grains, whole grains. We're going to be repeating that a lot. Vary your protein intake. And then they also underscore the importance of low-fat and fat-free dairy sources. And then after the to-dos, then we see, as we've been saying, what is recommended to eat less of. And here, the latest guidelines: choose foods and beverages with less added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. Now, Nancy, through the years, you and I have certainly looked at a lot of research together. Here, we've just looked at the dietary guidelines for Americans. What other healthy diets come to your mind that also follow this exact leading with the to-dos first approach? What comes to mind?
Well, the two that get the most attention for a lot of good reason is the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. Those are very healthy diets. And then there's the Blue Zone diet. And the Blue Zones, I love this, are 5 areas of the world where people have unusually long life expectancies.
Right.
And then there are other healthy diets out there, but they're actually very similar, and they all follow this to-do approach.
Yeah, they all start with what to eat more of. And the to-dos, interestingly, are almost always the same, particularly with the primary foods that are recommended, the ones that are like lead the pack, shall we say. All of the guidelines, all of the research on the healthy dietary patterns, they start up front with 2 plant-based recommendations. Eat more fruits and vegetables and eat more whole grains, as we just are seeing here with these guidelines. So those are really the 2 food groups that we'll focus on here throughout this discussion. So let's start with the fruits and vegetables, Nancy. Just a moment ago, we mentioned how unhealthy the average American lifestyle is. In terms of fruits and vegetables, unfortunately, the news is not good. And the latest statistics, this from the CDC, in terms of fruit and vegetable intake, the average American reports eating only about 10 servings of fruits and vegetables in the entire week. Wow. What are your quick thoughts there, Nance?
Well, my first thought is they're not eating very many fruits and vegetables. And, when you look more closely at the report and what fruits and vegetables they're eating, there's very little variety. And that's not good from a health point of view. And then, but also practically, when you think about it, Rick, it's really easy to go through an entire day and eat very few of these fruits and vegetables. You really need to be proactively planning how to build them into your meals and snacks in order to get them in.
You do. And it's not as if, we know that the average American diet may not be the healthiest diet, but it doesn't mean that you have to be eating cheeseburgers and pizza all day long to not be eating the fruits and vegetables. Nancy, I know that, I might have a bagel in the morning, on a Saturday. And if I've had let's say a sandwich for lunch, there I am, moving into the late afternoon, having
That's
had
right.
no produce.
That's right.
It's
People don't pair sandwiches with fruit or vegetables. They pair them with chips. I mean, it's just how it is.
right, right. And yet those blue zones, with people with those long life expectancies, the fruits and vegetables are just part of walking through life in those rarefied areas. So, all right, people don't eat a lot of these. Let's now look at some of the research on fruits and vegetables showing how even just eating a few more of these foods per day can make a difference in health. So here we have a study of over 65,000 people. This is a study from England, age 35 years or older. Look really carefully at this study. Obviously, risk drops as you go down on the y-axis here. I mean, going from left to right, you can see increasing fruit and vegetable intake. So starting on the left, 0 to less than 1 per day, all the way up to 7 or more servings of fruits and vegetables. And you can see really the major causes of premature death here in America, as well as really worldwide. You've got heart disease leading the pack, followed by you also would have stroke in there, cancer, but then they highlight in particular here, Nancy, all-cause mortality.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dramatic finding here. If you were just to look at the 7 servings of fruits and vegetables associated with a 42% reduction in risk of dying during a study that lasted just under 8 years. I mean, that's pretty dramatic. Mm-hmm. But at the time the study came out, it was so interesting to read about it because people really latched on to that 7 number, mm-hmm. 7 servings of fruits and vegetables. And the thinking was, wow, that's a really dramatic study, but 7 is an awful lot of fruits and vegetables. How are people going to do this? People probably can't do this. It's just too many. Yeah. So when you read the study and you look at the methods section, they're measuring their servings of fruits and vegetables in half-cup portion sizes. In other words, how we like to measure them in our program, we like full cup servings. That's how we measure our servings of fruits and vegetables at HMR. So this really, when you're talking full cup measures, Nancy, it's really 3.5 cups of fruits and vegetables per day to produce just remarkable differences in overall health risks for these major health problems. Yeah. Let's look a little bit. What do we mean when we say a cup of vegetables or fruits? Nancy, I'm just going to hold up. Can you see what I'm holding up here?
Yes. Yeah. You've got a cup of carrots.
I have a cup of carrots. This is really not an extraordinary amount of carrots, and yet you do this. I'd also put up a sweet potato. This is about a cup as well. Nancy, I don't know what you've got there.
I have a banana, a simple banana. Again, like a single serving, another serving, a portion size. You could do it. I don't have an apple with me, but an apple would do it.
Yes. So if you really think about it, a full cup serving is what we're talking about. You have a fruit in the morning, work 1 veggie into your lunch during the day. The whole goal for the rest of the day would be to find another serving and a half or more to put yourself in that elite category on the far right of the study. Truly amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, so as Rick just described, increasing your intake of fruits and vegetables really can be easier than you think it is. And one of the first things that really helps is to track the fruits and vegetables. We find that when you are writing down what you're eating or tracking what you're eating, you automatically are more aware of it, and you're much more likely to start eating more of them. And one of the things in our program, we use our Hmr app to do this.
Mm-hmm. I'll put that up here just so that people can see it.
Go ahead.
I just going to say I have this on my phone. I use it every day to track not just my fruits and vegetables, my exercise and other health behaviors as well, Nance.
Yeah, it's very simple to use and it's very effective. So you can see on the left, this is the daily screen, and the third row down are the fruits and vegetables, and it's just a matter of clicking the plus sign anytime you eat one, and it'll basically track how many you've had for the day.
Right.
The middle screen is the weekly summary, which gives you a visual of how many you eat each day, which is very, very helpful in your whole planning and strategizing. And then we have daily tips that we offer, and that includes tips on eating fruits and vegetables. So it can be a nice option for tracking your fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. And, whatever method works for you to track your fruits and vegetables, the reality is any health behavior that you're trying to do more of, if you track it, it's very reinforcing, and it just makes it so much more concrete and ties it back to what you're up to and whatever your goals are for your health. I will just say a couple other quickies, Nancy. Let's hit on a couple of how-tos here. We've got that compelling research, but one of the things people often ask is, do the fruits and vegetables have to be fresh? And I would just give a quick plug to fresh, frozen, or canned, however you can eat them. Here I have a can of green beans. Sure, I'd drain the sodium out, the salty water. I'd probably rinse them too. But canned vegetables are a great option, and frozen are equally good.
And with the frozen now, they have so many that just steam right in. They cook right inside the bag. They're quick and easy. People love those. I don't want to dismiss farmers markets, which are, we're in the season of those. That's a real opportunity to go somewhere and find all sorts of a variety of fresh vegetables, trying something new. Including maybe you want to invest in a CSA or a half share of CSA and really have a variety of fruits and vegetables arrive at your home once a week.
Yep, absolutely. And I would just underscore again, kind of the example I gave a moment ago. You want to start early, and you don't want to leave it all to the end of the day. So try to build in a vegetable or a fruit with each meal. Find ones that you can enjoy as a snack. This doesn't have to be all that you're eating. And as the research shows, that study was such a good example, even just a little bit can go a long way in terms of protecting your health. I'd add one other thing, Nancy, when you go into restaurants, pick restaurants that have fruits and vegetables. You can have all the best wishes to eat healthy, but end up in a restaurant that just doesn't really provide the options. Any other thoughts around how-tos, Nancy, before?
Well, a couple of popular foods these days. Smoothies are a quick and easy way to get in fruits and vegetables. And then salads. Salad, you can load a lot of fruits and vegetables into a salad. The thing you want to be cautious of are the high-calorie additions and dressings. Yep. So lots of ways to increase.
Lots of ways to do it. And it's worth whatever effort you put in, because these foods are just so healthy and protective in the short and long term of your health.
Not to mention, I'll just throw in from a weight point of view, they're filling but low calorie. So they allow you to get full on not a lot of calories. So that's a nice advantage.
Right. All right, let's switch over to the other sort of plant-based recommendation. Again, we've detailed how most healthy diets, as the published research would cite them, start with the to-dos, and they almost always start with more fruits and vegetables and more whole grains. So, Nancy, we have watched through the years, when we look at the trends and the surveys of people's health habits, and, it wasn't very impressive, people's whole grain intake, leading up to the most recent stat that we're going to share. I think I remember, 90% of Americans did not eat enough whole grains was the last stat. But this latest finding from those same dietary guidelines for Americans is really something. Let me show it here, and I'm going to ask you to just share your top of the mind comment about this latest stat in terms of whole grain intake. And here we are. 98% of Americans fall below recommendations for whole grain intake. What are your thoughts there?
Well, all I have to say is it was sad enough when it was 90%, but at 98%, we can basically say that whole grains are missing from the American diet. And that is not good news from a health perspective.
Nope.
Why don't you share some of the research that is why I'm saying that?
Yeah, and this falls right in that same line of small changes can produce big results. We saw that with fruits and vegetables. It might even be more impressive with the whole grains. This might even be an easier way to protect your health. So here's what's possible. Here we have, again, cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Okay, so we've got those big three. As you're going from left to right, you see the whole grain intake increases. The recommendation is to have 48 grams of whole grains per day, 3 times 16 grams being a portion of whole grains. And when we look at this, probably the most positive thing about this whole study, besides the fact that these commonly available foods can produce an effect like this, Nancy, was a quote from the lead author who wrote, "The largest health benefit might be achieved simply by shifting people from low or no intake of whole grains to an intake of just 2 servings." Just 2 servings to get most of the health benefit. So we can do this quickly, Nancy, but you and I went around our homes and just looked at some whole grains here. Let's share a few different examples here of whole grains that have you getting those 2 out of 3 or more of the recommended whole grain portions in a day. What do you have?
All right. Regular Cheerios.
Yes. Regular Cheerios. So 1 serving has you exceeding the 2 out of 3 and gets you well on your way to meeting the full recommendation in just 1 serving of Cheerios. What else do you have, Nancy?
Which is a cup and a half, not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Oatmeal. So you've got the cold cereal, you've got the hot cereal. This was really surprising to me how much a serving was.
Yes.
40 grams, right?
40 grams. So what did the author say? Getting 32 grams gets you most of the benefit of whole grains. Here you get 40 grams with 1 cup of oatmeal. Nancy, I have some whole wheat bread here. This right here, just 2 slices, 44 grams of whole grains. That is 92% of what you need for the entire day to meet the full whole grain recommendation.
And two pieces of bread.
Just 2 pieces of bread.
And then the pièce de résistance. All right. Whole grain pasta.
Yes.
Taster acquired. This is one of Rick's absolute favorites.
I actually had that one here myself, Nancy.
Yeah.
So,
and
are you ready for this? So what did the author say? 2 out of the 3 gives you most of the benefit. You get 175% of the whole grains to meet that. And you also you exceed the entire recommendation for whole grains for the entire day in just 2 ounces of whole grain pasta.
Yeah.
So again, increasing whole grains intake may be easier than you think. Nancy, you and I are both huge fans of the whole grains. It's not the only grains we eat, but we have built them in. Real quick, I want to save time for the physical activity, but what are 1 or 2 strategies that really just work for you to build in the whole grains?
I mean, another thing that I do, I love oatmeal, but I love Hmr has a hot multigrain cereal, which has just very high nutrition. Here's what a box looks like. And it makes a nice filling bowl of hot cereal. You know, it's a packet. And I have that every morning because I love it. I put it with some fruit and that's it. It's got 2 servings. So I've already started my day after breakfast with the 2 servings. And then I tend to like to have a whole grain many times in the evening. So, you know, another simple one, brown rice, which if you cook it takes 40 minutes. But again, they have steam bag rice now. So for 4 minutes, you can have brown rice. And there are other quick cook ones like that. So simple things like that don't take a lot of time, but I incorporate into my meals.
Excellent. Great. All right. So we've covered fruits and vegetables, small changes, big results. We've covered whole grains. Even smaller changes can produce big results. Let's now move on to physical activity. Now, just as quick background here, there's a very large, long-term, ongoing research study on the health and the health habits of Americans. It's called the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NHANES. It's essentially the nation's report card, and it's published periodically in different areas. About 8 years ago, there was an update on the physical activity levels in the United States. Nancy, do you remember some of the commentary surrounding that report when it first came out?
Yeah, I mean, researchers and the media really sounded the alarm because the report showed how inactive Americans had become. And in fact, it was the most discouraging survey yet in this area. People questioned if it was even possible to move any less than people were moving. The thinking was that we had absolutely hit rock bottom. It couldn't get any worse.
That's right. So, well, the new report has come out, and permit me to share it. So we thought we couldn't become
move on. There you go.
Since that last survey, Americans have added, are you ready for this? Another full hour of sitting to their day. As I think we have tried to literally break Netflix, Nancy, as much as we can.
Yeah.
And this is sort of it's understandable. We can appreciate how easy it is to sit and not move in today's modern culture. We're all subject to it. You've got technology and you've got delivery services. The list goes on and on. You never have to leave your house if you don't want to.
Well, and not to mention, Rick, that many jobs require a lot of sitting now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So with that as sort of the backdrop, we're sitting more than ever before. What happens if you move your body even just a little bit? This was a study, one of many, many studies that look very similar, actually, where if you look at, again, we're measuring mortality risk over 122,000 people. What's exceptional about this study was they put people on treadmills to do treadmill stress tests to see what their fitness levels were. So it wasn't just a self-report study. When you look going from low fitness, going left to right along the bottom, all the way up to the highest fitness levels, you could see the more fit people were, the lower their risk of dying during this average 8.4 year follow-up period. Just extraordinary. Nancy, you're a big fan of this study. You've mentioned it to me many times. What do you like about this study?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love the most is you take someone from low, which basically means they're not moving,
Mm-hmm.
and you move them to below average, which means they're moving a little bit, probably, averaging a mile a day or something.
Right.
That drops their risk in almost half. I mean,
Right.
If that isn't a hopeful message and a reason to start moving some, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. And to the point we made up front, people think you have to do all sorts of crazy amounts of exercise to really impact your health. All the research shows this. It's essentially the opposite. The first exercise you do makes the biggest difference in reducing health risk and protecting your overall health and improving your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how many people are going to get on treadmills, Nancy. I'll just read the summary here. Increased mortality risk associated with being low fit was comparable to, if not greater than, the risk of existing heart disease, diabetes, or smoking. So I don't know how many people will get a treadmill stress test. That's probably not likely. But this next study and the final study that we will show looked at just simply the number of steps that you take and the impact on health. Again, looking at all-cause mortality risk, you can see going from 4,000 steps in per day to 8,000 produce most of the health benefit here, a 51% reduction in risk of dying during the course of the study. Of course, more was better. If you jumped it up to 12,000 steps in the day, you were healthier still. But where does the biggest benefit come from? The first exercise you do. What else would you say here?
Yeah, and Rick, if you look at that second sentence that's below the graph there was no significant association between step intensity and mortality after adjusting for total steps per day. So that's the other positive message is, again, you don't have to become a runner. You don't have to, do high intensity machines. It can simply be low intent. The intensity did not impact the health benefits.
Absolutely. And that's why at HMR, we present a very forgiving definition of physical activity to the people in our program.
Yeah. And our definition is simply moving your body through space. And that makes it so much easier to become more active. And we have so many stories of people who start out who, can hardly walk, and they'll walk to the mailbox and back, and that will be their first physical activity. And then, they'll walk a block, and then over time they'll walk 2 blocks. And we've had so many people go from that level of physical activity to the point where they're doing well over 10,000 steps a day. They're doing, 3,000-4,000 calories of physical activity, and just thriving and loving the fact that they're active.
That's right. So moving your body, that's what it takes. But that is what you need to do. Move your body, but it can be lower intensity, and short bouts count.
Yes.
Some people think if I don't walk for 30 minutes, what's the point? The research is clear. They've even broken down the impact health-wise of a 130-minute bout versus 3 10-minute bouts. There was one study, Nancy, you remember what they did, I believe it was 10 3-minute bouts, and basically the body treats it all the same. So that's, again, a very, very positive message about physical activity here.
Yes, and again, tracking can be key here as well. So if you own an activity tracker, or again, our HMR app is a great place to track physical activity.
Right. All right. Well, we've come to the end here. We've looked at 3 different health behaviors: fruits and vegetables, whole grain intake, and physical activity, all health promoting, even in smaller amounts. We hope that this conversation was informative and helpful. Small changes in our lifestyle can go a long way in protecting our health. And by recognizing this fact, and we really just touched on the tip of the iceberg here, Nancy, right, with the research.
Yes.
Yeah, it really can help us to get in action with some positive changes that ultimately can lead to even greater changes over time, if that's your goal. So hopefully this research that we've covered here has been motivating as we've reviewed it. And thank you very much for listening. And Nancy, thank you for joining me today.
I thoroughly loved it. I hope this is helpful for people.
Great. If you are looking for medical advice, please visit providence.org. If you would like more information about HMR and our program, please visit www.hmrprogram.com/good health. And make sure to follow us on social media at Providence on Twitter and under the Providence Health System on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thanks for your attention today.
Thank you.